Hartmann report today, the headline is how Trump and the GOP will use this opportunity to demonize and shut up Democrats. And, you know, it's already started. This is very different, by the way, from how Reagan dealt with being shot. And I think that's worth pointing out because, you know, Republicans love to lionize Ronald Reagan. Well, let's look at what happened when John Hinckley shot Ronald Reagan. It was quite some time before they figured out that it had anything to do with Jodie Foster. I mean, for all they knew, you know, John Hinckley was a Muslim terrorist or a Democrat or, I mean, you know, fill in the blank of somebody who Republicans love to demonize. And yet Reagan and his people didn't come right out and say, oh, the Democrats caused this. In fact, what Reagan did is he said, and I'm quoting, he said, perhaps coming so close to death made me feel that I should do whatever I could in the years God has given me to reduce the threat of nuclear war. He woke up in the hospital, and there was a friend of his with him. There was a number of people there. And he said to this one guy, he said, I'm going to dedicate my life to peace. And he did. 3 days after he left the hospital, he wrote a note to Brezhnev, the Soviet leader, saying, again, quote, we would like to work together for a meaningful and constructive dialogue which will assist us in fulfilling our joint obligation to find lasting peace. That's how Reagan reacted to being shot. You know, now, you know, I'm no fan of Ronald Reagan, right? I didn't like his policies. But he wasn't trying to start a civil war. He wasn't encouraging Proud Boys to stand by and stand back. He didn't ask, you know, a couple thousand people to attack the Capitol building, hang the vice president, and murder the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Donald Trump did all that. Okay, he didn't explicitly call for Mike Pence to be hanged or Nancy Pelosi to be murdered. He simply mobilized the crowd, but he watched TV as he could hear the crowd saying, hang Mike Pence. He could see the video of the crowd going after Nancy Pelosi. He didn't do a thing for 3 hours. That's an endorsement of that kind of violence. And they want Democrats to shut up? J.D. Vance. By the way, today, it's been announced that today Donald Trump is going to do his Celebrity Apprentice thing and announce his vice presidential candidate. And J.D. Vance is at the top of everybody's list for probable. So J.D. Vance yesterday tweeted out, the central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. BS! I'm telling you, this kid who did this, who tried to assassinate Trump, this guy who tried to kill Trump, was a school shooter. He was the bullied loner who wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, and he was probably planning, with his dad's AR-15, he was probably planning on shooting up the local school, and then Donald Trump showed up and he thought, hey, if I want to go out in a blaze of glory, this is a better opportunity. And by the way, why aren't Democrats right now introducing legislation called the Save President Trump Act to ban assault weapons? The kid was able to get off multiple shots very rapidly because he had an AR-15. Anyway, J.D. Vance says what he said, and in other words, Democrats quit calling Trump and the people who support him authoritarians, or pointing out the parallels between their policies and rhetoric and that of the Nazis. You know, unless you want to be blamed for this 20-year-old madman who fits the classic bullied loner profile of a school shooter wanting to die in a blaze of glory. And then Tim Scott jumps in. He says, let's be clear, this was an assassination attempt aided and abetted by the radical left and corporate media, incessantly calling Trump a threat to democracy, fascist, or worse. Corporate media? Yeah, this morning, Joe Scarborough got bumped off the air. A Republican. He got bumped off the air by MSNBC. Apparently, now MSNBC hasn't made a formal announcement, but the scuttlebutt is that they were afraid that he might criticize Trump. It's like the cowing of the media has begun, and it appears to be working. You know, this is you know, Lee Atwater talked about how we've got to work the refs. Well, this is working the refs on steroids. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the left wants a civil war. They've been trying to start one for years. These people are sick and evil. No, the left doesn't want a civil war. The left is not arming. That's the right. In fact, in 2022, Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted out a picture of herself with an assault weapon, shooting at somebody. It's incredible. It's just incredible. You know, back in the day, my mentor was a fellow by the name of Gottfried Müller, and he was drafted into the German army in the 1930s. And he told me the story. It's in my book, The Prophet's Way, about how he was part of this group of young draftees who were led up on a stage to salute Hitler, who was there at the time. I'm not sure if it was the 37 Nuremberg rally or when it was. And then to touch the Blutfahne, the blood flag. There was when Hitler led a mob against the Bavarian state capital in Munich to try to seize the government. The police stopped them and they shot two guys, and one of them died on a Nazi. He fell over on top of a Nazi flag and bled all over it, and that became like this relic that the Nazis waved around. We have an American variation on this. In April of 1871, the former Union Army general and then Congressman Benjamin Butler of Massachusetts gave a speech on the floor of the House against the Klan, and the Klan reported that he had waved the bloody shirt of a man who was fighting for black voting rights, a carpetbagger in the South, to try to insult the Klan. Well, he actually never waved the bloody shirt, but waving the bloody shirt is a part of the American lexicon. So my question is, Trump, when he got arrested, he cut up the suit, remember? And he sold little 2-inch square pieces of that suit. And of the tie, he cut up the tie as well and sold them online. I'm wondering if we're going to see a bloody shirt or some other icon. Now, this probably isn't going to roll out this week, but, a couple weeks down the road. I mean, it took almost a year for the Nazis to go from, attacking, well, actually like 2 years. It was a year after, it was after Hitler got out of prison. He actually went to jail for his January 6th, right? But it was about 2 years later that they rolled out the bloody flag, even though it had been around, they'd had it for 2 years. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of falls into the category of weird history and news and things like that. But